So they give us free will. That's what was supposed to happen. We were never supposed to grow old. We were never supposed to die. We were never supposed to get sick. But something happened that spoiled the plan. A meteorite hit the Earth. And when the meteorite hit the Earth, it brought in bacteria for the first time that created disease. Before that, there wasn't anything. And they were heartbroken. There was a show on Nova years ago where they were talking about the different kinds of life on Earth. They said there's two kinds of life on Earth: bacteria and everything else. That the bacteria was the foreign element. It didn't belong. And this is what created disease. But when this happened, they said, what are we going to do now? They went back to the councils and they had the meetings, and there was great sadness in the councils. It was like, well, what do we do? Do we wipe the whole thing out and start all over again? Or do we let it continue to develop the way it is, knowing it will never be the perfect people we expected it to be? It was decided that so much work had been done to allow it to continue to develop, even though they knew it would never be perfect. Now, see, a lot of this I think you would go along with if I do UFO lectures on why they're doing the experimentations with the sperms and the ova and all of that. They are bringing us back to the perfect state we are supposed to be. You understand all of these things. There's no negativity in what any of them are doing. They've been taking care of us since the beginning of time. One time they said in one of those sessions, why do people keep saying we're here to take over the world? It's ours, it always has been. We can't do anything to you as bad as you do to yourself. So they've been watching us all this time and taking care of us. And as they lived with the people, they were given these different inventions and things as the time was right. Fire, agriculture. When the species got to that point, they would give them the next invention. Of course, now it's got to the point they can't live among us anymore. There's too many people. So now when the next invention is supposed to be developed, it's put into the atmosphere. They don't care who invents it, as long as it is invented in the timeline. And, you know, you always hear about people all over the world are all working on the same invention at the same time. This is why. They put it out there. Whoever gets it, that's fine with them. That's the way they're doing it now. But I asked them one time, I said, okay. They said, you have free will. And then the prime directive of Star Trek is very, very real. Non-interference. You cannot interfere with a developing species. So I said, all right, you're coming and giving these things to the people. Isn't that interference? They said, no, that's a gift that we give them when the time is right. What they do with it is up to them. And a lot of times they don't use it the way we wanted them to use it. They'll turn it into a weapon, or they'll use it in a negative way. But it was intended for good. So it gets to that point, they give you a gift. And I said, well, can't you come back and tell them you're not doing it right? It was not what it was intended for. He said, that is interference. Give it to you once and see what you do with it. If you don't use it in the right way, then nothing they can do about it, because that would be interfering. So many times, they sit there and shake their head. They said, for goodness sake, you know, why are you doing this for? We gave it to you for a good reason, and you're turning around and using it like this. This is important for you to know so you can understand the three waves. Anything that is supposed to be developed will be developed in the proper time, because they know when the civilization needs the next information, the next invention, the next step up the ladder. Well, if you understand they've been watching us since the beginning and taking care of us. When we dropped the bomb, the atomic bomb, at the end of World War II, that really got their attention. They've been watching us all during the war. See, they can't stop the wars. They can't stop everything we're doing. They're just watching. They're watching us all during the war. Well, here at the end of the war, we developed atomic power. And what do we do with it? We go and make a bomb. That got their attention. They said, we better get down there and see what these kids are up to. And they were very unhappy about it because it was not supposed to be in our timeline yet. When it was time for it to be developed, it was supposed to be developed for peace, for energy, for electricity. It was not supposed to be used for a weapon. But once you create something for negativity, it has that, what we call aura of negativity around it, and it will never really be what it was supposed to be. But they said they're really worried about it because they said these kids don't know what they're playing around with. Because they just came through this horrible war. They can't take care of themselves. They have no idea what they're doing. Now they bring up atomic power. They could destroy the world. They have no idea what they're working with. I left a piece out there. It's going to come back to me though. Okay. I have all this information flooding into my head, and you have no idea the energy that's coming off the audience, too. That's the reason I sit down. I'm a smaller target that way. Okay. Okay. But, you see, humans have been on Earth for so long, making the same mistakes over and over and over. We're caught on the wheel of karma, and they know this. They said you can't even figure out your own lives. You got the country in a mess. You just came through this war. Because people go through the same lives over and over again, making the same mistakes. The karma over and over and over. They don't learn. They got to keep coming back to do it over again. If Jesus came to save us from anything, what I found out was he came to save us from the wheel of karma. Because we were just going round and around and around, making the same mistakes instead of moving up the ladder. And he was to show us how to live through love. But people didn't understand it, and they killed him. So here we're going, life after life after life, going round and around, making the same mistakes over and over again with the same people. They said, these kids can't even take care of their own lives. They can't take care of the world. They're never going to be able to understand atomic power. They will blow up the world. Now, the law of non-interference just goes so far. They are not allowed to interfere unless we get to the point we could destroy the world. If that were to happen, it would cause reverberations throughout the whole solar system and into other parts of the galaxy. You have no idea what it would do if this little planet, we're isolated over here on purpose. We're a young planet. They want to keep us away from everybody else. They don't want us to contaminate the rest of those planets. But if this little insignificant planet were to destroy itself, it would send reverberations out. And it would also go into other dimensions and interfere with lives of other people on other planets, that it would be like undeclared war. You can't even begin to believe the reverberations it would have if something happened to this planet. So they said that's the only way they could ever interfere, but if we reached the point we were going to destroy the world, then they would have to step in. This has happened countless times through history, and I'm going to be going over some of that. Oh, but they've always been there. This is the thing. So they knew that atomic power was so dangerous in the hands of children that we could misuse it and destroy the world. They said, what are we going to do now? We can't come in and say, stop it, you can't do it. That's interference. They came up with what I thought is a brilliant plan. They went back to the councils, they had meetings on this. They said, all right, we can't interfere from the outside. Maybe we can influence from the inside. So they came up with a brilliant plan. The people on earth aren't doing it. They're too stuck in karma, too stuck on the wheel. We're going to have to bring in other souls that have never been here before and that are not stuck on the wheel of karma. Those are the ones we're going to have to bring in. Pure souls, never been contaminated by earth before. So that was what they decided to do. And the call went out for volunteers. And I've had hundreds of these sessions, and I've written about them in the books about, I'd find one here, one there, and that's why the whole story is coming together about the 3 waves. Now, none of you know this consciously, but now that it's coming out in my radio shows and the Project Camelot and the books, I get emails all the time saying, I'm first wave, I'm second wave, now it makes sense, I finally understand. But on your conscious level, you don't understand, you don't know what in the world's going on. Okay. The call went out. Earth is in trouble. We need souls to volunteer and come and help. Will you help Earth? And I've had many, many sessions when some of them are at the meetings they're holding in the spirit world and all different parts, and they'll say, who wants to volunteer? And they say, they raise their hands, I'll go, I'll go. Then they say they get down here and they say, what was I thinking? This is horrible. What was I thinking about? But what I have found, these volunteers are coming from 2 different places. Before, all those years, when I would take people into past lives, it would be normal past lives. I have people go back to where they're animals too, but I still consider that normal. Animals, birds, plants, rocks, even rocks of consciousness, everything has consciousness. When I have somebody go back to where they're a rock, they say, life is very slow. But in the last book, I talk about a whole lot of lives as animals. But these, I want to know how the animal thinks, how it sees, how it perceives things. My curiosity again. So, those were normal lives. They were all going back to lifetimes where they had lessons they had to learn with people now, karma with different people in their lives, their families, all of this. So that was what my therapy was all about. Let's find out the cause of your problem. I get people with family problems, physical problems, job problems, and that was where it was going all these years. Now, in the last several years, things have changed. The only ones I'm finding now who are going back to normal past lives are those that still have karma to repay. These other ones are coming up with something totally different. Now, how can you explain this if it happens again and again and again? They go to 2 places. Some of them were ETs, they don't like that term, on other planets, spaceships, other planets, other dimensions. Some of them lived in places where they were light bodies. They didn't even have a body. You imagine how to get that far advanced and then to volunteer to come down here. And they have never been on Earth before because they've always lived on other planets and other dimensions. Then we have some who have never been anything. They had never left God before. And this is tremendous when I have these sessions with these people. Would you imagine what a shock it would be to these souls? They're so pure and they're so unaffected by our junk here to come into this life. It's very difficult for them to function here. But when I've had them go back to God, they call it the source. They always say the source. They always describe it the same way. And I have a whole section in the last book on what God and what the source is. In my book, Between Death and Life, was the first time I ever got someone going back to God. And they were explaining about, they said, you have no idea what God is. Your perception of God is like a tiny thread compared to what it really is. You have no way of understanding what it is. And then they say, think of those people who do not have as much understanding as metaphysical people do. Their concept of God isn't even as much as a tiny thread. They have no way of understanding the totality of the whole thing. Well, first of all, God is not a man. This is what some of the speakers have been talking about the whole time here. God is not a man. You got to get over that. If anything, he would have been a woman. Because women are the creative force. He's neither one. He does not have a gender. He's not male and he is not female. It is a power. It's an energy that is absolutely incredible. Every one of them have gone back to him, describe it as a huge, bright light. Some of them say, I'm in the sun, but it doesn't burn. It's not like being on fire. It's like being in a huge sun. Some of them describe it as the great central sun. But it is always described as this huge, enormous light, a pulsating light. And when they're there, it is so full of love that they don't want to leave. And they are always together with all these other, what do you want to call, beings, souls, essences, however you want to say it. And they're happy. They don't want to leave. I don't know if there's time to go back into how life got created in the first place when it came from God. And I have all of that in the books too. I guess maybe I could say a little bit. Whenever God was this huge bright light. And when he decided, he knew everything, but he was lonely. So he wanted to create others. This is when he burst out. This is the Big Bang theory. When he burst out into all these millions and millions of particles. Now, when I take you back to what you really, really are, all you are is a tiny little spark of light. A tiny little spark, that's all you are. So in that point, they all shot out in all directions. Some of these little sparks became planets, some became galaxies, and many of them became the individual souls. I have many clients that come in and say, I want to know where I came from. I said, well, we all came from the same place. And they think they came from a planet out there or something. No, they all came from God, from the source. And when they shot out, it was like God said, go and learn, my children. Learn everything you can and bring it back to me. When Mandeep was talking about the supercomputer, it's really very much like that because he collects information. He wants to know everything. This is why there is no bad, there is no good. It's all information, experiences, and learning. So everything you ever learn in any of your lives, at the end, when you graduate, you bring it all back to God. And it's kind of like downloaded. So anyway, this is how we all began on our journeys. We are like cells in the body of God. We will return with all of the information. So these people went back to lives, which I didn't think was possible to never have a life anywhere. In my early days, I wouldn't have believed it. But they were with God. And they were very, very happy. They didn't want to go. Because when they leave, they said it's this feeling of separateness. And it's very traumatic. They don't like it. They're away from God. And you go your whole life lonely. They want to go back to be with God. So they have been separated. So when they're telling me all these things, and I'm thinking, well, you must have left because here I'm talking to this body laying on the bed. I said, well, why did you decide to leave? They said, we heard the call. And even when the ETs, all of this, they always say the same thing. We heard the call. Earth is in trouble. We need volunteers. Will you come and help? And out of their love, they said, we will go and help, not knowing what they were getting into. I've had some of them say they were warned, they tried to tell them this is not going to be what you think it's going to be, but if you really want to go and help, you can do it. So they came into the bodies, and sometimes when they get into the body, that's when they're saying, what were we thinking of? Everything is so dense and heavy on earth that they really don't want to be here. So this is what I've found now, are what I call the 3 waves, because they've come in at different times. And this was the experiment to see, because Earth was really needed help. The first wave would be those born right at the end of the Second World War, right about the time I said when they discovered that we dropped the bomb, we didn't need the energy, we couldn't handle it. That's when the new souls began coming in, which I used to say 50s. My daughter says, don't be too strict on these ages because we don't know. Some people tell me they're in their 60s and they think they are one of the forerunners because they fit the qualifications. But I would say nowadays, it's been about 60 years, hasn't it, since the end of World War II. Those age ranges are the ones who are the forerunners. These are the first wave that came in. Now and I wrote about the first one was in Keepers of the Garden. First time I ever encountered anyone like that, and I didn't know what to ask them. But now in the other books, I'm finding many, many of these because they're finding them everywhere. Okay, the first wave of people don't want to be here. They don't like it. They're very unhappy. They may have a good family, good jobs, but they don't like Earth. They don't like the negativity. They want to go home. They don't know where home is. They just know it's not here. They don't like the violence because they say, why do people do things like that to each other? So it's very difficult for them to live here. And many of these people have tried to commit suicide to get out because they just can't take it. Of course, it's not going to solve anything. But I've run into many, many of these in my work. I've had people come in and say, when I leave your office, I'm going to commit suicide. You're my last hope. That puts a lot of responsibility on a therapist. But then we usually find out where it all came from. But I kept wondering, when I was starting writing these books 20 and 30 years ago, that was when we were having a lot of teenagers, they're having problems and trying to commit suicide. Maybe they were part of this first wave and they just couldn't understand it. They couldn't understand being here. The second wave came later. Julie, what do we think? It's about 20s and 30s years old now? I mean, not 20s, 30s and 40-year-olds, and the second wave. The second wave are what I call the generators, the antennas, the channelers. They're here to just be. They're here to channel energy. They will affect anybody they're around. They said you could walk through a mall, a crowded place, and affect everyone that you walked by. This is from the energy generating from the person. This is helping everyone. Because I have people coming and they want to know their purpose, they want to know what they're supposed to be doing. They say you're not supposed to be doing anything, you're supposed to just be. Well, of course, they're not very happy with that. They want to know, what am I supposed to do? These people, the second wave, are very gentle. They're usually in the background. If they do get married, I found some that find another soul like themselves. They usually don't want children because they said to have children creates karma. They don't want karma. They want to do their job and get out of here. They don't want to stay here any longer than they have to. And they're afraid the children will tie them here. I've had some that have had children. It was very difficult. One woman had to stay in the hospital the entire term of her pregnancy because otherwise she would abort. And they had to keep her on a drug that would keep her heartbeat at a certain level the whole time until she could have the child. And when the subconscious came through, it said, you don't realize this is the group that we're not supposed to have children. And it was very difficult for her to do this. But one thing I have found too, this first wave and some of the second wave, see, their energy is totally different from our energy of us earthbound on the wheel of karma. The energy is different. They're coming in for the first time into such a strange, dense, heavy world. So sometimes when they first enter the mother's body into the fetus, the energy is so different and so strong that the baby will abort because it can't match the frequency of the mother. And I've had some people tell me, you know, that makes sense. My mother had a couple of abortions before, not, you know what I mean, not legal, you know what I'm talking about, miscarriages before they were born. Because they said this is the difference in the energy adjusting to the person. So they said sometimes in order to get the soul in here, we can't put all of the energy of the total soul in at one time. We have to put a portion of it in it so that the baby will survive and be able to be born. And then as it gets a little older, a little more of the soul will come into it. And I've had people come in, they want to know what's happening. Everything is so different at different stages in their life. That's because it's been downloaded more of their soul. But in the beginning, it's too strong of an energy for the mother to carry the baby. Does any of this make any sense to you? Because these are bits and pieces I've had to put together. So this is the energy that is in these two. And I asked them one time, why did the first group have so much more problems than the second group? They said they were the forerunners. They were the pioneers. Somebody had to come and blaze the trail. They had a lot of difficulty. Then the second wave could just follow in their footsteps and go after them. So that's why they had it easier with the second wave. And that's what people say, I know I'm first wave, I never wanted to be here. And they tell me, some of them say, I remember standing in the kitchen talking to my mother when I was about 3 or 4 years old, saying, I want to go home. And she said, well, you are home, honey. And they said, no, I want to go home. And they didn't understand what they meant. Well, the third wave are the new children. These are the ones you call the indigo, the new children coming in that are considered the hope of the world. They're the gift of the future. They are coming in with everything in place. See, as we go through going into the new earth and everything, our DNA is being changed so that we can adapt to all the changes that are happening now. These children are coming in with everything in place. Everything is there. They don't have to have any changes made. They are ready and they're willing to go. This is why they're a totally different breed. And Nikki did a good job in her lecture talking about this group. You can understand how they are. I've lectured at conferences about the new children and where there's been panels of these new children. And they explained it. They said, we're just bored is all it is. We get it the first time. Why do they have to keep telling us over and over again when we understand that we know the answers? The teacher will ask them for the answer to a problem, maybe a mathematical problem, and they'll give them the answer. And they said, how did you know that? I know it. That's not good enough. So naturally the kids get frustrated. But they said, you must not put these kids on medication. And this is what Nikki was saying. The medication will just dampen these abilities. But these are the hope of the world. And she was repeating what I've said in my lectures before. Give these kids challenges. They're just bored. Give them something else to do. Even a teacher, if you just give the kids something to tear apart and put back together again, it's something to challenge their mind. So these are the three waves, and they've all come in here to help us to move into the new earth. Because we're moving into it now. The vibrations and the frequencies are changing. We are moving into a new world that something has never happened before in the history of the universes. Everybody's watching, all the other beings. This is the greatest show on earth. Because they want to see, are we going to be able to pull it off? Are we going to be able to do it? Because it's never happened before. And this what these people, when I have them in the session, they'll say, we've come to help the earth go through its next incarnation. The earth is a living being. It is moving. It is evolving. It doesn't care if we go with it or not. It's going to do its thing. If you want to go with it, we're just like fleas on a dog. It doesn't care. It'd rather get rid of us. But if we want to go with us, then we have to adapt, and our bodies have to change to move with it. Okay. There's one piece of information that I want to say that I just got a few weeks ago. I'm still getting information of another group that I never knew about before. Okay, so I want to talk about it tonight for the very first time anyway. You see, civilizations down through time have been destroyed because of man. You know, man always wants to go in there and control. And a civilization can get to the point where it has great knowledge. It can do anything with the mind. The minds are so developed, they can do anything. And then man will come in and destroy everything because of his greed and power. This has happened time and time again down through history. Atlantis was not the only one. It happened many, many times before that. And in my books, I've talked about all the other civilizations that have reached the peak and had to be destroyed because of what they were doing. They gave me some of this information because they said, you're getting to that point again. And you have to know, you could getting to the point now where we could destroy the earth again. They can't allow it to happen. This is where all of this is happening to keep it from happening. But the one piece that they gave me that was different was about Atlantis. I've heard time and time again the reason it was destroyed was because mankind was misusing the crystal power. And they were directing it in the wrong way, and they were trying to develop more and more power. Another reason they said it went down was because of their experimentation. They were doing experiments by combining animals and humans. And this was going against the laws of nature. One of the speakers talked about creating slaves. That's what it was. They created the half man, half animal beings and used them as slaves. All of the legends you have heard down through time of the half man, half animals, they were legends left over from Atlantis. That was where they were developed. It didn't come from Egypt and from Greece. But it was real in those days. They said, you have to know these things because you're pushing it again. You're trying to do it again. You probably know that we are experimenting. They're trying to put pig parts into the humans, big organs. And they said, you can't handle an animal part in your body because your body will reject it. So they are introducing human cells into these pigs so that the organs will be what a human can handle. And they're going transplanting those into the humans. Now, in the beginning, there was some scientists that said, we don't want to do this because we don't know what's going to happen. You can eat pork, you can handle animals, but what would happen if you had an organ in your body where the blood was constantly coursing through it? They said you could create a disease that there wouldn't be any cures for. So for a while they stopped it and thought maybe we better look at this. But now they started in again. They said, we're going to do it. That's always their answer. We don't care what's going to happen, we're going to do it. So this is what I was told. You're getting to this point again where you could destroy the earth, go the same way that Atlantis went. Well, my daughter, where's she over there? She's always asked questions about why, if we have free will, why can't we push the envelope? You want to come up here and say what you, no, she don't want to, okay. We have a lot of discussions about when I come home and I say, I got a little more piece of information. She said, why couldn't they do this? They destroy their own country or something. What's wrong with that? It's free will if you want to misuse crystal power, if you want to do these things. So there's always a little question mark about that. what does this have to do with threatening the earth to where it could destroy the earth? Then we got the extra piece of information. We found, they said they didn't tell me this till now. We found out one of the things that Atlantis was fooling around with was what they called dark matter. And I'll probably get some more information, but I'm thinking they might have meant antimatter. Because they said the scientists were trying to see if they could create their own universe, try to see if they could create wormholes and make their own universe and use it like gods. Doesn't it sound familiar? Where scientists are fooling around now with the collateral, what they call it, the things they're making experiments with. They want to create wormholes. We're headed down the same thing. But they said Atlantis, they began experimenting with this. And it became so bad that it began collapsing the grids of the earth. When that happens, the earth could explode. And they said it was not only affecting the grids of the earth and the DNA of the earth and the DNA of the people was also beginning to spread out and affecting the grids of the solar system and into the universe. So they had no choice. They said, we've got to stop it because all of this, I just got this information, I'm trying to understand it, it would be the implosion. As it began, they said it'd be like a folding in on itself as the grids collapse, and that the Earth would fold in on itself, and then the other planets and the galaxies, it would be such a domino effect that we could destroy the entire universe. This is why they said they had to come in and destroy Atlantis. So that makes sense. That's a lot more serious than I ever thought it had been before. They had to destroy the whole continent because it couldn't be allowed to go any further. There were some survivors, some of them went to Egypt and to South America. They're the ones that built the pyramids because they had this knowledge. But it finally made sense. But another piece of this information is, these are called the keepers of the grid keepers. You're all back now. Your job is to help rebuild the grid because we're bringing back our psychic abilities, we're bringing back all of the abilities we had in the past, and we have to rebuild the grids back to where they were. And this is why our DNA is being changed and developed as we go through all of this. So they said there are 10,000 souls that have come in with the job of the grid keepers to rebuild the grids of the earth. And none of this is on a conscious level. You're probably doing it when you're asleep at night and you don't even know it. Because every night you go out of your body and do work. Somewhere in there you're all doing work. Maybe you're one of the keepers, but 10,000 at least who are rebuilding the grids of the earth. All of this is going to go in the new books. You see what I mean? Every time I think I got it all, they throw something else at me. And it's never ending because of the information that's pouring out. Okay, this could go on for quite a while, but let me go to questions, because otherwise I could take a lot longer about the new earth, and I've talked a lot about that before, and it is in the books. We come up to the microphones if you want to ask questions. Yeah. I take a breath here. And I need my daughter because when the way the microphones are, they reverberate and I have a hard time hearing it. So she's my translator. We go to England, I said she has to translate English for me. Okay.
But I do have an accent. And I know that's difficult for you. Can you understand me, Dolores?
I'll translate.
Oh, okay.
See, it echoes in the microphone and it's hard. You're the one from Holland, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you were talking to me earlier. Okay. Oh, what's your question?
I have two questions.
Okay.
One is these waves that you were describing. Is that something that happens all over the world? I mean, especially also in underdeveloped countries?
Talking about the waves that people
Okay, because I didn't get it. See, the accents bother me too, and it's not your fault, it's mine.
Oh.
Okay.
Talking about the waves of people, is that something that's happening all over the world and in undeveloped
Yes,
countries
oh
also?
yes,
No,
everywhere.
but I mean not
everywhere.
only in civilized worlds.
Because I travel all over the world and I'm
Yeah,
finding
but
them
you are
everywhere.
in specific circles. Is it also like in Africa, you know, where the people are suffering so much, or in India, or in China?
It's everywhere.
Yeah?
Yeah, it is because, but I get this information from everyone that I work with, and any country, and I get emails from all over the world. They're all saying the same thing. I'm one. And they said if they're in Russia, they're in all these other countries, and they said, I never understood myself. And they said, finally, something makes sense. Because some of them are getting to the point they want to commit suicide because nothing out here in this world makes any sense. And so I do get emails from all over the world, and I know it's everywhere. Now, the jungles, I don't know if it would help there or not, because it would be, I think, more the developed countries. That would make more sense, wouldn't it? But who's to say? But they're here to raise the vibrations and to help anyway. Okay.
Then my second question is, everything that is happening now with, you know, the cloning and the technology that's running out of hand. You also had in one of your books about the hollow earth. What is happening there and how do they react there?
Okay. We're talking about like all the cloning and the technology that's going on and everything. What's happening?
The cloning is not so bad as what they're doing with the mixing of the animal cells with the human. The cloning is not bad because
No, only when they mix the,
yeah,
the
cloning
species.
is okay.
I know,
It's
yeah.
the mixing of the animals and the human cells together.
I know, yeah.
And there's a lot more going on than you think there is.
I know. No,
They
I know.
tell me things, they say, you're not to lecture on these things, you're not to write about them, it's just for your own knowledge. So there's a lot going on you don't think of. But that's what they don't, it's against the laws of nature.
Yeah, but my question was the hollow earth. What is happening there?
Okay.
But you talked about the hollow earth, or the cities inside the earth. What's happening with that and there?
They're safe. Yeah, I've written about that. They've been under there. That's where a lot of the survivors of Atlantis were into the underground cities underneath the earth. And they're fine. They have tremendous civilizations under there. They can go 3,000 miles an hour through the tunnels. And the entrances to those places are under the pyramids of the world. And they have no interest in our part at all. Believe me, they don't want to be on the surface. They have a sun down there. They have lakes. They have a wonderful civilization. They're quite happy, and they don't want to be involved with us at all. So I don't think they're the ones that are having problems. That's just my opinion anyway. Okay.
Hi, Dolores. Can you hear me? I was wondering about the 10,000 souls. Do you think they are already here, or are they the new children coming in?
You think they are all what?
Are they already here?
Okay. These 10,000 souls, the grid keepers, are they already here?
They're already here.
Okay.
So they are not the new
They're
children?
not the new children?
No, they're not the new children.
Okay.
These are, well, as far as I know, it's what I was just told, that there were 10,000 of them. I think they're already been born because they're already making adjustments to the grids. So they're not part of the new children, not
So-
that I know of. They have a different job.
The adjustments are being made. We are doing this in our sleep on other dimensions, many of us.
The adjustments are being made, we're doing it in our sleep, many of us.
Yes, see, all my people that come to see me are just as normal as you sitting here. Of course, we're not considered normal, are we? I mean, they have no idea this is going on. This is in their other part of their mind until it comes out in the session. So they're just living their lives. But at night, when you think you're asleep, you're really not.
Yeah.
Your body is the only part that needs to go to sleep. It's the only part that gets tired. The real you, we get bored sitting around waiting for you to wake up so we can get on with this work. So when you go to sleep, your real you is off having all kinds of adventures. all over the world, going to the spirit side, going to other planets, and doing work, rescue work, helping people cross over in disasters. So you have a lot of things you're doing at night that you don't know. People say they wake up tired. That's probably why they've been working all night.
One more question about the 10,000 souls. What are the ages of those, and are they, is this their first lifetime doing that job?
The age of something.
The 10,000 souls, the good keepers. Do you have any idea what the ages are of them, and if this is their first life, or if they've been here before doing this type of thing before?
I only had the one case so far, and she was back, at the time of Atlantis when it went down. And they were there then taking care of the grids. And they were in a physical body, but they weren't really physical. They were there to take care of the grids, and when it began collapsing is when they were part of that. They just left because they weren't really physical. I think the woman was in her 40s, maybe 50. But see, I know I'm going to get more, because when they give me one piece, I'll begin to get more information. This is the first I've heard of the grid keepers. But they're not the young ones, as far as I know.
And I also have one more question. I do angel portraits, and I've had twice now, I've had come up doing young children, and they call them sapphires.
For
And
what?
is that another wave of like the indigos and the crystals?
She does angel portraits, and she's been having coming up lately one children that are called sapphires, and she's wondering if that's another wave, maybe like the indigos and crystals.
Well, they say the rainbow is what Nikki says is the rainbow children are the next ones that are coming in now. I don't know, maybe they would be part of the sapphire.
Okay.
Yeah. Mixture of colors. Okay.
My question is, with New Earth coming, I read that everybody's going to end up having to die in order to shift to the new Earth. No?
I'm answering that question.
Well, she knows as much as I know about these things,
What would be the point?
Well, I've just heard
Well-
different,
because she's been doing this as long as I have, and she knows every time I get something new, I tell her, what was it?
She's been hearing that to go to the new Earth, you have to die.
No, 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 no. When you die, you go to the spirit side.
right.
We do that one all the time.
And you've been doing, yeah. When the new earth happens, you will take your physical body with you.
Okay.
And after you're over there, for I don't know how long a time you're over there, you'll turn into beings of light. Because you won't need your physical body anymore. When you first go over, you take your physical body. That's why they're saying your diets are changing, because you have to become lighter if you're going to go.
Right, so how
And
would
they
you
say
know
the
when that
best
happens?
foods, how many of you notice your diets are changing? They say the best foods are live foods. They mean fresh fruits and vegetables. Stay away from meat. Some chicken and fish is okay, but not the heavy meats, the steaks and things, that ties you down to the earth. And stay away from sugar as much as possible, and drink lots and lots of water. And they said eventually you're going to begin to notice you're wanting to switch more to liquid diets. And when I was on the radio about this, people called in and said, yeah, I've noticed I want more smoothies. They're going over more to liquids.
Oh, okay,
So
I won't finish
your
my
diets
half
are
part of
changing.
that question. But my other question is having children a guaranteed recycle of karma? That confuses me sometimes. Like, if you have children, are you stuck to come back?
Can I answer that one?
Is it turned on?
Yes, it is. Can I answer that one?
Yes, you can answer it. Have at it.
Okay.
I don't know what the question was, but have at it.
It was,
It was, if you have children,
Use it.
I'm telling you.
Okay, you
If
can
have
tell them.
children-
Yeah.
One another question. If you have children, is that a guarantee that you're incurring karma and you're going to have to stay here?
No, it's not a guarantee, because they say when these new souls came in, the 3 waves, they had like a sheath, a covering put over them to protect them from karma. because they don't want to stay here. But, you know, if you do karma, that's going to hold you here. There's two things you're going to have to get rid of if you want to move into the new earth. One is karma, because if you have karma, you're going to have to stay on that wheel. And the other one is to get rid of fear. Fear is the strongest emotion a human has. It's paralyzing. You get rid of fear, otherwise you can't move, you can't evolve, you can't go into this wonderful thing we're going into. You have to forgive, you have to get rid of the karma. Let it go, it doesn't matter. And let go of fear. Those are the two things you got to do. So the other part doesn't matter. But like I said, this one woman had a child, even though it was very difficult, and they said that's okay. Once you get rid of the karma, then you begin to realize if you're incurring any more, because you'll notice what you're saying, what you're doing is affecting other people. And then you can stop it before it goes any further. You don't want to make any more karma.
What I'm noticing and what I feel is these waves are having the next waves. And a lot of times, well, they know each other. That will not create karma, okay? So that's my take on it.
I think it's interesting when I've done husbands and wives, and they didn't share the session with them, and I would do the spouse the next day and find out they were both part of the first wave or second wave. They found each other. That's good. Otherwise, they go through life and they're very unhappy because they don't want to be here. Okay. You remember I spoke in Des Moines a few months ago.
Right.
And on the way there, we drove there, 9-hour trip. I lost my voice. And he was at the conference I had to speak at, and I got up there. I said, I couldn't talk. It was scratchy and scrapey. And I said, oh my gosh. And they said, we don't care, talk anyway. And I talked about 2, and then Gary kept saying, you can go longer than 2 hours. And I said, I can't talk. So I managed to get through, and he was there. But I said, if I can do that, then nothing to be afraid of. And I guess they understood me between the squeaks and the squawks. Okay.
And you did just fine. I'm a little concerned about genetic engineering of grains because they are now producing seed stock of soybeans so that they can spray chemicals on the ground and it will not kill the soybeans. And Monsanto is the main person, the main company that is producing this. And I'm a little concerned. Have you gotten any information about genetic engineering of grain?
Just with the chemicals? I got part of that.
The information on genetic engineering of the brain.
Oh yeah, it's not good. It's not good at all.
And
we travel a lot in Europe and those countries, and they don't want anything from America because they're worried about that genetic. Here again, it's Atlantis. You're going back to interfering with the laws of nature and combining, and it's not good.
But the big companies...
It is affecting the human body, too.
Yeah. Yes, the big companies are so strong financially that they can take care of the legislation that would prohibit it. So I'm concerned about that. And
well, I'll tell you one thing. That's all staying with the old earth. You'll stay with what you create. And that's what I asked about. They say the other ones that are into negativity, who don't understand any of this, they said they're the ones that are asleep, will stay with what they have created. The rest of us don't have to live in that world. You will live in the world you create. So we don't want to live in that world. We won't be there.
I'm being told to tell you, I'm given this sign right here. It's saying what you focus on. Where you place your focus is your world. And it just keeps doing that over and over. So where you focus, make that your focus, where you want to live, what you want to be your world, that is your focus.
And eliminate fear. Like he's talking about, do you want to live in that kind of a world, or do you want to live in a world where that doesn't exist? This is the separation between the new earth and the old earth. And you go there, but those of us who understand what's happening, they said it's guaranteed we're going. So I don't think most people in this room are not going to have to worry. The other ones, they say, don't worry about it. Don't try to convince anyone. That's not what we're here for. They will all find their own path. They'll get there eventually. It doesn't matter. But don't worry about the ones who believe in this because they're already going. Don't worry about the ones that are so stuck in negativity you can't reach them anyway and it doesn't do any good. Worry about the ones in the middle who don't really understand what's happening. Get rid of karma, get rid of fear so they can go.
Don't worry.
Huh?
Don't worry.
Well, people...
We don't want that energy. Don't
No,
worry.
people come up after the conference and they'll say, what about my husband? What about my children? They all have to make their own decisions. We can't live anyone else's life for them. But they all have to make their own decision. They all come in with their own plan.
On a
even
soul level. It's a soul level
soul
decision.
level thing. If they have to work something else out, they'll come back and do it. But just, you know you're going, that's the main thing. And it'll all fall into place. They said they'll all get there eventually anyway. Okay.
Okay. What do you think has taken us away from the timeline of worst-case scenario that Nostradamus and other prophets have described, and how can we keep on the timeline of creating the best-case scenario?
How do you think we got from the worst-case scenario that Nostradamus saw to where we are now, and what can keep us going into the way of manifesting the world that we want?
We created it with our minds. That's what he said. If you realize which path you're going down. So he said he saw nexus points. At the nexus point was something that had to happen. And from that, it branched out into all the different possibilities and probabilities. So we chose to go the one that was the least. And that's what we've done. We've turned the corner.
So we've chosen as a group consciousness, and my feeling is that the internet has been a big help as far as connecting people around the world of like minds.
We're moving away from the negativity that he saw. Okay.
Probably of making people aware, so then they could, like, that was her job, was making people aware and saying, you can do something. So once we heard we can do something, guess what? We did
it.
Yeah.
So it's not that his prophecies were wrong, it's that we changed them with a different timeline. Okay.
Hi. My question is that when you ended Convoluted 3, and you were talking about the new Earth, you had talked about a holographic Earth, basically image over our Earth. And, since that time, I know you've had sessions and things like that, but is there anything that you can share on how you see that happening, or how that, have they told you how that's going to happen? Yes?
Okay. In the end of that was actually Convoluted 2 where we had those two images.
Okay.
Okay. Convoluted 2 where you had the holographic, the two images and the
Yeah.
souls and everything. Wondering if you've got more information about how you see that happening, the images, the Earth pulling apart.
What they have told me is that they can't answer all my questions on all of this because they said nobody knows what's going to happen. They don't even know. But it's never happened before in the history of a planet. The history of that it goes into another dimension, it's never happened before. So even they don't know. That's why they said you'll never have all your questions answered. I get bits and pieces. But they said that's why they're all watching it, because are we going to pull it off? They don't know.
So it's up to us.
So we're still getting pieces of information that are coming through.
But isn't that exciting?
Oh, very, yeah. But the
We
thing I
get to
think it
create
is
it.
what they're trying to say, it's up to us. It's not up to them, right?
Yeah.
As far as
We chose to be here.
right.
Well, who was saying that? We chose and we are chosen. Daniel was saying that.
Right.
And that's exactly right. We couldn't come here unless we were a master manifester. So we are creating this whole thing. We wanted this adventure. We're on the front lines of this roller coaster, and ain't it great?
is. It is. It is.
That's what she's
Especially
always
with a
found out,
conference like
that
this, it
you're
makes it
master manifestors, which means you can create anything you want. Nothing is impossible.
Look what we're creating.
Right. Well, go on this creation that we're talking about. With
It's
everything
either
that's-
this or destroy the world, because they will not let us do it. So they'll take us down. They said that finally we have reached the critical point, the critical mass. We have enough new souls in here now that we're going to do it. We're going to save the earth. Before it was questionable. But now they said it's like the 100th monkey syndrome.
Yeah.
Now we have reached the critical mass that will be able to save the earth. So they're very hopeful that it's going to happen.
Have they ever set a timeline? A timeline that they said that this has
Well,
to?
we're already in it.
But I mean, at the end of the timeline?
A lot of it started about 2003.
I want to get there.
And you all are feeling it in your own bodies.
Tomorrow. Will that work?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
The other question I
because
just...
the 2012 is just like one of them was saying, the culmination of the energies that happened at that time to push us over. It doesn't mean on that date everything will change. You won't wake up one morning and see everything different. In a different world, it'll just be subtle at first. But about 2003 is when we began noticing the differences. And people have been feeling the effects in their own bodies. And some of them go running to the doctors, they think something's wrong, and actually all it is the body is making adjustments to the new frequencies. And some of the physical symptoms that people have been seeing, you see, to make the shift in energy suddenly couldn't happen. It would destroy the human body. It has to be done in degrees. So you will shift, and then you may stay there for several months, and it'll do a little shift again. So some of the physical symptoms they're talking about are high blood pressure, heart palpitations, AFib, when the heart gets to beating irregularly, depression, dizziness. Some people can be dizzy for several days, joint aches and pains, stomach. Are those the main ones? Headaches. And they go to the doctors can't find anything wrong with them. Of course, they're going to put them on a pill anyway, but it clears up in a few days, and then it's several months before it happens again. And I think now it seems to be going more time between when we feel these effects. They said the older people are the ones that are going to feel it more because the bodies are too set in their vibration. The young kids, don't worry about them. They're coming in with everything already changed. The ones in the middle may have some of these symptoms, but they won't be as severe. If you can't handle the energy, you'll leave. You'll make
That's
the
when you
transition.
die. You leave that way.
Yeah, that's when you die. If you can't handle the energy, it gets too intense, you make the transition. You don't die anyway, you'll just watch it from the other side.
Last question I had, just with some of the earth changes that we're having, the earthquakes, and of course the BP oil spill, things like that. Have they said anything about the acceleration of time and time speeding up as we know it?
But time speeding up, time is definitely speeding up. They're proving this.
I mean, have they said anything
Yeah, they've
specifically?
sent me things in the emails showing that time is definitely speeding up. You all know that. Look how fast time goes. Oh yes, everything is changing. All of this, the time is speeding up. And the scientists are validating this, that it is speeded up.
Mm-hmm.
They said, what they say after the tsunami, the Earth moved a little bit on its axis. It changed the time too. Right. But yeah, everything is speeding up. Everything is changing. This is a wonderful time to be alive. Look at what's happening to our bodies, to the world. It's wonderful. You're in the middle of a great adventure here.
I agree.